Until a few years ago in Madrid, on the Almudena Cemetery, there was a memorial plaque for fallen German soldiers who had given their lives in the Spanish Civil War for the cause of the Nationalists. The inscription reads, "Here lie German pilots, fallen in the fight for a free Spain. German aviators died for God and for Spain. Present." But why did they fight? Why did Germans fight for a free Spain? At the urging of the culturally leftist German government of the modern Federal Republic of Germany and the German embassy in Madrid, the monument was demolished. Although the so-called Spain fighters enjoyed recognition in the old Federal Republic of Germany until the 1980s as heroes against communism, which was in conflict with the Soviet Union and the GDR, the memory of the Legion Condor and the fighters in the Spanish Civil War began to be erased in the early 1990s, especially under the new Social Democratic and Green government in the late 1990s. Streets were renamed, and the modern German army, the Bundeswehr, was forbidden to see the heroes of the Legion Condor as role models. Conversely, there are no problems from the political left, whether in modern Russia or in the West, with a continuing admiration for the so-called international brigades who, supported by the Bolsheviks, fought in the Spanish Civil War on the side of the Republicans, that is, on the side of the socialists, communists, syndicalists, and anarchists. The Spanish Civil War was the first major proxy war and ideological conflict between the ideological blocs of communism in all its variations and the anti-communist powers, which were sometimes authoritarian nationalist, sometimes fascist, sometimes national socialist, and sometimes monarchist. In the historical review of the Legion Condor, the criminal bombing of Guernica by the German Luftwaffe is usually the only topic discussed. The German soldiers in the Legion, according to the interpretation of many modern historians, were harbingers and death angels of a fascist ideology that they later practiced in the Second World War as well. It is often overlooked what atrocious atrocities were committed by the communists, syndicalists, anarchists, and all those who called themselves Republicans. The Red Terror swept through Spain in the early 1930s. The blood trail went through the whole country. Thousands were murdered by Bolsheviks and their accomplices. It affected priests, nuns, intellectual rights, military personnel, politicians, women and children too. The reason why the National Revisionist forces under General Franco marched out to overthrow the left-wing government is simple. Especially in the Catholic, Christian and conservative circles of the divided Spanish society, it was rightly believed that the whole country was on the verge of falling to communism. The threat from the political left, who wanted to transform Spain into a new Soviet republic through a revolution from within, as well as with help from outside by Soviet agents, along with all the murderous excesses that had also occurred in Russia. And the reason why followers of Franco and the Falange and others from the left were shouted down as reactionaries was simply because they reacted to the left-wing revolution and wanted to reverse it. When in July 1936 the Spanish nationalists under General Franco began their coup against the left-wing government, tens of thousands of the best Spanish soldiers, loyal to Old Spain, were still stuck in Spanish Morocco. Although the Spanish nationalists sought help from Italy and Germany, they did not initially receive it. It was not until the end of July that Adolf Hitler personally approved the formation of a volunteer legion of the Luftwaffe to intervene on the side of the nationalists. He later cited many and various reasons for this decision. But for many German volunteers of the Legion, who speak in their memoirs about the reasons for their participation in the Civil War, two reasons are usually dominant. First, most of them were young, dynamic, and driven by a spirit of adventure. The war was something they wanted to test themselves in. Second, all of them were uncompromisingly staunch anti-communists and enemies of the Bolsheviks, whose hand was undoubtedly at work in Spain as well. Thus, the Soviet Union also supported the Republicans more or less openly with weapons, ammunition, trainers, and later with their own air force and, of course, their many secret agents. For the men of the Legion Condor, it was clear that they were fighting on the side of the anti-Bolsheviks against global Bolshevism. Because in Great Britain, France, and Germany too, the communists, syndicalists, and other left-wing parties and organizations had called for armed struggle and participation in the socialist revolution in Spain. Tens of thousands of volunteers fought on the side of the left-wing Republicans and not a few participated in extensive crimes and mass murders. In the Civil War, violence escalated on both sides, and for many of the volunteers of the Legion Condor, it was clear on which side they wanted to stand.